Hey, what's up everybody? Good morning. Andre here with another Saab, fun Saab video. Let's get it going here. I had someone reach out to me regarding an alternator replacement procedure on these 9.3s. So let's go over it. I know my car is up in the air right now, but essentially you want to start with the car on level ground because we're going to need access to a couple of things first. So first things first, 13 millimeter on the negative terminal. Let's go ahead and get that bad boy off. Coming around to this side, we have to take the belt off to get access to everything and the tensioner. So first thing we're gonna work on is getting that tensioner off, and there it is right there. You see that hole, that opening right there? Here's what it looks like on another motor. So this is a B204. This is out of a 99 9.3. This one's fully built, but I'm taking it all apart again just to repaint some covers, and I'm gonna redo the valve cover. I might even change the valve seats because I saw a little bit of oil sitting on the back of the intake valves over there. So I don't think that the machine shop that did the work did as good of a job as they could. So I have another set of valve seats, and I'm gonna go ahead and replace those. Either which way, here's the tensioner as you see it on the unit. Now, I'll go ahead and put this down for a second because here's the tool that you're gonna wanna use to get the tensioner off. Nice little breaker bar, 1/2 inch end. You're gonna put it right in that tensioner and pull it towards you. Well, you're not going to want to do it that way, but against the angle at which it rotates. And that way you can pull it towards you and relieve the tension off the tensioner and slip the belt off. Now, if you have a super cool, super fun upper strut mount bar, guess what? Your ass has less access. So you're going to need a smaller piece. So I end up using a smaller 1/2 inch extension, and then I put another small 1/2 inch extension on to give me a grip that sits right below that bar. Then I pull it towards me, and I can just have enough access to slip the belt off. From there, with the belt out of the way, we now need to work on getting that 8 millimeter out. And the fun part of it is that as you work your 8 millimeter tool, hold on, let's talk about this. Here's your 8 millimeter that you're going to use, and you're going to go ahead and put it in here, and you're going to be going. It's in right. Well, it's already out right now, but you're going to be going, and then think your tool is going to hit the back end of the frame in the engine bay. So what I like to do is I crack it, loosen it up, take my back end of the tool off, and grab the end of the socket and turn. Again, with the car on level ground, it's right there in front of you. You just go ahead and keep turning. If you need to use an 8 millimeter tool, you can. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend you get yourself a set of stubby stubby Allens. The best thing you could have to work on this car, because those stubby Allens are gonna give you access to things like the tensioner in tight places, and it's really gonna give you access to the transmission drain, which sits right on the bottom, maybe this far away from the subframe. So you really have no room to get a normal 8 in there. But if you get a stubby, you can put it in, put a little pipe at the end of it, and just give it a crack. Once you do, you can turn the rest of it out with your hand. Either which way, we're back to the alternator. So you go ahead, you take your tool out, you get everything out, you get everything going, and it's a long bolt. It's gonna feel like it's going forever. There you go. Now you've taken your you've taken your tensioner out. So now, boom, you see the upper bolt here. But we gotta get access to this lower bolt, this one here, which sits on the end of your intermediate shaft bracket. Now, this is one from a Viggen, but I have it on my B204 because I put a Viggen, not a Viggen differential, but a F35 splined differential, which is the spline that you see here on this style intermediate shaft. The original one on the 99 is a whole cut assembly. It's actually all in one, and it's a thinner shaft. This one's the same as the 9.5, but it's a little bit smaller because, again, Viggen's smaller wheelbase, not smaller, but slightly less wide. So the shaft is maybe like 1 inch or so smaller, and but it looks exactly the same pretty much. So the one on the 99 is one whole unit with the inner cup, but the brackets are all the same from 98, end of 98, all the way to 03. They're all the same. So that lower bolt sits in this opening, but it's covered because there is a cover on the inside of the wheel well. So you got to get your car up in the air. You get your car up in the air, you get your wheel off, and you have access to that cover sitting right there. Now, you get my light on. Okay, so here's your cover. Now, let me get this tilted, wrong way. Okay, so here we are, right? You've got an 8mm or a 7, and look, mine look a little bit different because there's a couple of tabs that were broken, so I improvised. I have a couple of different bolts and nuts and washers. So you have the 7 up there, you have another piece over there, and then this piece comes under the subframe and scoops. It scoops under like this. So there's 1 or 2 bolts in here that are holding it against the subframe and also to the inside of the fender liner. So you have to get those off as well. And on top of that, there's also this guy. Watch this. Now we're gonna swing underneath. Let me see if I can show you the angle here. Boom, there you go. See that little guy? The little guy right in there? That's holding this cover in place. So you're gonna wanna take that 10 off as well, and then you can swing everything out and over. So hold on, working this little gimbal stick is fun with the opposite hand. So, yes. So we go ahead and take that cover off, and once you've swung that cover over and around, boom, now you have access to these bolts here. So with that cover off, you're gonna wanna work the lower bolt first. That lower bolt is in here. Crack it, loosen it all the way. Come up to the top, you crack this. Keep it loose, because to take this thing off, you're gonna need to swing it out of this bracket position, or the position that it sits within this bracket. You're gonna wanna swing it out. But don't forget, we have a couple more things to address here now. Now, we have the wires that sit on the back of this alternator. You have, again, a 13mm here, and then you have an 8mm here that connects to the wiring harness. This wiring harness is the part that runs all the way up the back of the block, and it's in the same bundle of wires that is a ground that sits back here on the thermostat, and the thermostat housing, and it also has a wire that connects to the oil pressure switch, which is this guy here. This is a 99 version, so it looks a little bit different. The gentleman that reached out to me online said that he had a later gen 9.3, and those have, hopefully yours has it, bud, but the PCV update, which is a black box that sits against the edge of the block here. You've got another 2 sets of 13mm, I think it's 2 or 3, that hold it to the back of the block. And you'll know it because you'll have all these extra hoses and evap lines and bypass lines that run to your dipstick and that run to the back of that black box. But that's definitely, hopefully, should be on your model. If it's not, you have everything open, get that PCV update, bud. I can't recommend it enough. It's what kills these cars. So hopefully you have that black box. Either which way, it just makes things more cumbersome because it's in your way. Also, I know you don't see it here because the intake isn't on this, but there's a support bracket, which I think sits here. And that's on the same on the T7 as well. That bracket is, it kind of comes at an angle, it sticks out, and it kind of comes out at an angle. So you may find a couple more things in your way, but guess what? They're all 13mm, and it's 2 more bolts. If you have to open one up and let it swing up to get it out of your way, go for it. So you take that 13 off, you take this 8 off, you get everything off, and now everything is loose off the alternator. This has no lower bolt, and the top bolt is loose. But we have one more thing we have to do, and this is probably the most annoying part of the whole procedure, and it's removing your downpipe. Well, hold on, not removing it, but you have to loosen it because it has to swing, because it's in your way. So your downpipe, one there, and you have one dead center underneath. You go ahead and take that off. You remove the 2 rubber bushings that kind of hold the forks at the end of the, at the back end of the cat and, or the collector at the back end there. And that way you have room to swing. You don't have to disconnect any of the wires or anything that sits up there. You don't have to disconnect any of that stuff. Don't worry about it. It's just a matter of having enough room to just shuffle it over to the side, because unfortunately you can't come out through the top. In the top, there's too much in your way. you have this bar here. And even if you have a 01 or 02, like this gentleman said that he had, it may not have this double bar like I have, but you'll have the factory OEM single bar. That'll be in your way. You have the intake in your way. You have, I mean, that's a strut brace that you may or may not have, but that's okay because the rack is still in your way. And if you don't think that that's still enough, guess what? Your tie rod's in the way. So I really don't think the alternator is gonna come up through the top. It's gonna have to come up through the bottom of the car. So once you've gone ahead and taken all that stuff off and shuffled the exhaust over, you're gonna have plenty of the access you need to just bring this guy right out. And at that point, you're just working in reverse. So let me just put this back down. You're just working in reverse at that point. You get your new alternator, you got it all together, you're underneath the car, you slip it back in. You're gonna put the upper bolt in first, but we're not gonna torque it down because remember, it has to swing into position on this bracket. So we're gonna go ahead, get the first bolt in, put a little bit of, not Loctite, but a little bit of anti-seize because it'll make your life easier when you're trying to take things out if they need to be replaced down the line. And aluminum bites, so just be very careful. Always hand thread first. That's what I was taught. If you were taught something different, cool. As long as it works for you and you're not stripping bolts, great. That's all that matters. So we get the first upper bolt in, tighten it up a little bit, but enough so that it can still play and swing. We swing it down into the lower part of the bracket here. You pop it in and you go ahead and torque that down. Now, I couldn't find the torque spec that was on the lower and upper bolts. I know I have them somewhere, but I couldn't find them. However, the torque spec that's on the tensioner is 33 foot-pounds, and it's almost exactly the same. It sits in the same type of aluminum bracket, the same type of aluminum casing. These are all the same kind of things. And if you really look, I mean, this bolt and this bolt, I mean, they're identical. So I don't think that anything is changing. I don't see why one would be, let's say, 50 foot-pounds and the other would be 33, which is what the tensioner is. So the tensioner is 33 foot-pounds. I just checked it on the Saab workshop manual and that's what it states there. That's one more thing I'm definitely gonna recommend. I'll put a link in the description. www.saab, S-A-A-B, W-I-S, workshopinformationsystems.com. It is the site you need if you drive one of these cars. Now, I actually didn't even know about this site until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, which shows even though I'm a Saab nerd and a OCD riddled weirdo when it comes to working on these cars, I didn't even know about that site. But it's been a game changer because you don't have to go hunting through the forums to go look for torque specs and see what other people have said. And then, again, I'm OCD as hell when it comes to this stuff, so I look around and check cross post and make sure that other people are corroborating evidence and, save yourself the headache, save yourself the bullshit. Get on Saabweiss, WIS.com. It'll have the exact same procedure I just described verbally to you, all in writing with step-by-steps. Sometimes the pictures are lacking. You gotta work with your brain a little bit. You gotta use some common sense. But most of this stuff I've done without Saabweiss, and it's really easy to do. You get access to the lower bolt. You just start working backwards. You realize you have 2 bolts to take out. Well, what's in your way? It's the tensioner. Okay, I'm working on the tensioner and, oh, my tool hits the frame, so take the tool out, yada, yada, yada. You do it enough times, it becomes, you can take an alternator out in less than an hour, which is, at the point, I'm at now, I can get them out pretty quick. Which I guess I'm patting myself, humble brag, guys. Either which way, back to the process. It's all in reverse order. Get the upper bolt in first, keep it loose, get that lower bolt in, torque the lower one down. I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be 33 foot-pounds. Then you come up to the top, torque that, 33 foot-pounds. Then you can go ahead and get the tensioner in. It only sits one way because there's a divot here. You can see that. It's gonna sit right there. Boom. Well, it's hitting the edge of the alternator now. Boom. Tighten it up by hand, get your tool in there, snug it, 33 foot-pounds. Then, all your wiring. You got the 13 millimeter on the back, you got the 8 coming from the wiring harness. Don't forget the 13 that you took off on the battery terminal. And then start working around, getting your cover back in place, getting everything back in, get the car back down on level ground. And then the same tensioner trick that I showed you with the 1/2-inch drive going into the back of this tensioner. You get that 1/2 inch in, pull it back toward the back of the head to relieve the tension, slip the belt back over, slowly work it in, and you're done. It should be as simple as that. I hope this helps you, bud. I'm sorry that I didn't actually take an alternator off, but I'm hoping that showing you the top end footage of what's going on at the top, showing you what's going on in the wheel well, showing you the alternator sitting here on the bracket in the intermediate shaft, I'm hoping that this will get you in the general direction that you need to go in. If not, check Saab Weiss. You can see some of the verbal written notes that the workshop system has, and you can double check my words right here. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck, and if you have any other questions, guys, feel free to comment and like and subscribe if you like the content. Again, trying to go live here, that way at least these unedited videos make a little bit more sense. I'm not editing them right now, and I do apologize if it's a little bit long, just to go over, not even replacing an alternator, but just what it kind of looks like. I'm sorry if there was a lot of back and forth and ahs and ums and likes and but I'm trying to get used to just the format this is eventually going to be, which is not going to have any retake ability. So just trying to get used to it. Sorry again about the uneditedness of it, but I hope you like everything that you saw here. And if you do, smash that like button, guys. Subscribe, hit the bell. You know what to do. I don't need to tell you. Have a great day.